following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Rob Denninger, and I'm here with Jack DeGraw, and as always, we're talking Yankees baseball. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you today, Robert?
I'm not too bad. It kind of looks like the wheels are falling off a little bit. The Yankees are 3 games under 500, 60 and 63, and it don't look like it's going to get any better.
No, this is the worst team this is the worst year I remember the Yankees having.
Yeah.
This is pretty much a nightmare, but it might be the best thing to happen. It forces changes.
Yeah, I mean they put up a stat the other day where at this point in the year, this is the first time the Yankees have been under 500 at this point in the year since 1995. I mean, that's a long time.
Well, I mean, you look at the lineup. It's just it's boring baseball. The pitching's non-existent with all the injuries. It's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't watch it, but it's just, it's a bad product. It's a terrible product you're throwing on the field. People are paying a lot of money to watch this.
It's like outside of Aaron Judge and Gleyber Torres, I mean, Stanton's batting 199. Volpe, even though he's a young kid, 214. Rizzo, 244. LeMayo, 242. Bader, 252. I mean, not only not hitting, they're not getting on base.
No, and one of the things, Robert, I mean, with Rizzo, he's hitting 300, and, I didn't know about the, concussion he had a couple months ago. They couldn't diagnose that for 2 months.
Yeah. And like we were talking off air, with everything the analytic department, monitors, especially, exit velocity and launch angle, they couldn't tell that something was, like you said, something was wrong with him at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, if his swing slows down, he forgot the outs a couple times. I mean, they follow everything with these players. They can't figure out something's wrong.
Yeah. It's incredible. I mean, and like you said, in the starting pitching, I mean, we lost all our starters except for Cole.
Yeah, I mean, they all get hurt. And Herman, he has a drinking problem. Hope everything works out for him. But it's just amazing. I mean, look at it. The Trevino is gone, the catcher.
Yeah.
And the first baseman. Third base was a disaster with Donaldson. Left field was a disaster. Judge gets hurt. Center fielder's hurt. Everybody's hurt. It's ridiculous.
That's like with Carlos Rodon before he got hurt. He's got an ERA of 7.33. Severino's got an ERA of 7.98, almost 8 runs a game. Cortez's ERA is almost 5. Herman's 4.5. Schmidt is 4.70. I mean, their starting pitching, even before the injuries, wasn't pitching that great.
Well, I mean, it's hard to figure out what's happened to Sevy.
Yeah.
And
it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who looked like he was really going to develop into an outstanding pitcher, and then he had his injuries. But now I don't know if there's any injuries, and he gets lit up every time he goes out.
Yeah, I mean, he's touching 98, 99 on the gun in his last outing, and he still gave up 4 or 5 runs, I think.
Yeah, I mean now they're out of the games in the first inning, the second inning.
Yeah, and like Paul O'Neill said, they're a different team, completely different team when they have to play from behind. Because when you have no one that can hit or get on base, I mean, you're waiting for that big home run, but you can't get that big home run if no one's on base.
No, and they haven't even hit home runs lately. They haven't hit anything.
No, it's like if Judge didn't hit that home run yesterday, I think that home run he hit was their first hit of the game. They were getting no hit and shut out until Judge hit that home run. I think they finished the game with 2 hits. but they're literally not. They can't hit. It's really hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for a couple of years. I mean, you got Stanton for 4 more years, and I mean, I always liked Stanton as a player. Home run hitter, runs, but now you have to wonder, is he hurt? And you're going to have a guy on your team for the next 4 years who can't run?
Yeah. And LeMahieu they gave that contract to, and I don't know if it's injuries or if it's just, Father Time catching up to him, but you got him for another 3-4 years too, I think, right? And Rizzo, these guys are getting older, and injuries are starting to wear on them. Yeah,
and I mean, the thing is, usually when players get older, they start to go south. They just don't play as well. But some guys, it hits all at once. Others, it's a slow decline. But you have to wonder, are they hurt? Or maybe age is, just taking over. And I mean, if that's the case, they're going to have to start eating a contract or two, because, you can't keep having this for year by year.
Yeah. And we were talking off air, analytics is a big part of baseball, but I think the Yankees' approach with their analytics has got to change. I mean, there was a former AA player of the Yankees that came out, and I guess they got ripped. The AA team in 2019 won their division, had the player of the year on their team, and they were still getting ripped for not following the direction of the organization. They didn't want them hitting off tees and other stuff, and ripped them out, saying this is why no one wants to trade for you, because they weren't hitting home runs, even though they won their division and had the player of the year on their team. So their approach has got to change. I mean, it's affecting the minor league players now.
Well, the player was like Ben Ruda, and I remember seeing him in Tampa in 2018, and the player was Chris Gittins, who played a little with the Yankees, and he's in Japan now. But the thing is, Ruda was even saying they won't let the guys hit off tees. Yeah,
which is insane.
And, another thing, I remember when I moved to Tampa, I lived across the street from the Yankees. And I used to go over there, and they, at every level, the coaching level in the minors, which is very important, these guys, they don't get the credit they deserve. They were ex-major leaguers, a lot of these guys. At the very least, they played in the minors.
Yeah.
And now you got these analytical guys making the decisions who probably never even played baseball.
Yeah. And
if they're they got to make changes there. Analytics is part of the game, and it's a good part. But the way the Yankees are doing things, the communication's not there. They're letting guys who never played professional baseball make decisions.
And
players who are making millions of dollars and have been great at every level to get to the big leagues, and now they're letting these guys make the decision.
It's like that guy Ruda said that the Yankees formula is called hit plus OPS, and the hit stands for exit velocity and launch angle plus your on base and slugging. They want these guys to change their launch angles, and they're even told you won't get docked for strikeouts. They want these guys hitting the ball as hard as they can, as far as they can. And that's just no way to play the game. You can't ask a guy who's not a great hitter to try to hit home runs while also trying to get on base via the walk. It's either one or the other. And so you shouldn't be trying to make guys who aren't home run hitters hit home runs. It's counterproductive.
Well, you're not going to have a guy who's 5'10" and 160 and somebody who's 6'4" and 225 be the same kind of hitter.
Yeah, that's like asking Ichiro. Yeah, we know you can hit 350, but we want you to focus more on the home runs. We want you to change your launch angle too. You don't do that. I get analytics are extremely helpful, but at some point you got to know what player can do what. What are their strengths?
Yeah, and I mean, like, if they're teaching these kids this in the minor leagues, it's like, who'd want to play for the Yankees?
Yeah.
You know, are you developing anybody? I mean, to be fair, they haven't developed many everyday players over the last 20-some years.
Yeah, I think they brought it up. I think the only two American-born players drafted in the MLB draft, the Yankees have only developed Brett Gardner and Aaron Judge, who have become everyday players for them, as far as position players are concerned, over the last 15, 20 years.
Now, one of the things also, I mean, the Yankees for years have signed high-price free agents.
Yeah.
So if you give a guy a 6, 8, 10-year contract, if you're in the minor leagues, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere with the Yankees. And another thing the Yankees have always done, and this has been going on for a long time, guys will move up through the system, and then they get to AAA, they'll get stonewalled because the Yankees will sign a lot of ex-major leaguers who have limited experience in the major leagues to play in AAA, pitching or hitting. So then when guys get injured, they don't bring up the minor league guys. The guy in the minors could be hitting 300 and the ex-major league could be hitting 200. He'll come to the big leagues.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you see it this year. Jake Bowers, Billy McKinney, this guy Frenchie, you know, it's just crazy.
Yeah. And we were talking about Florial, you know, just how, you know, I feel bad for the kid, but in order to bring him back up, they would have to put him on the 40-man roster, only to DFA him again. And at this point, though, I mean, what does it matter? I mean, people you're trotting out in left field right now aren't getting the job done.
Well, this has been going on 5 or 6 years. They said, well, we're waiting. We like the kid. He's a heck of an athlete. He can cover the ground. He can run. He can play defense. We're waiting for his hitting to come along. Now his hitting has come along, and now they don't want to bring him up. He's got 23 homers because we don't think he can hit in the big leagues. Well, the guys you got playing in the big leagues aren't hitting either. So what do you got to lose?
Yeah, and any sample size he's had in the major leagues has been very limited and sporadic. It's not like he's ever been given a 3 or 4 or a week out in the outfield. It's sporadic. So you don't know what he can do up here when he has been up here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, let's go back to, 2017. You had Sanchez, you had Bird, you had Andujar, Judge, Sevy, Hicks had a big year, looked like he was going to come on.
Yeah.
And these guys got worse.
Yeah. And it's like Volpe too. Well, Volpe this year, it's like even his former catcher down in the minor league said your swing is different. It's like when they get up here, they're instructed. It's just they're things change when they get up here. Well,
I think you got to bring it. I mean, get a guy like Sean Casey. I think he's a hitting coach now.
Yeah.
He hit 300 in the big leagues, had 1,600 hits, but he wasn't a home run hitter. He was just a very good, solid, everyday player. This is the kind of guy, whatever he should do the whole minor leagues and the whole system and teach guys how to hit.
Yeah.
This garbage with hitting home runs all the time, you've won in the big leagues, and that's a great accomplishment. You get in the playoffs every year, but you don't do anything when you get there.
No. Yeah, and Cashman every year goes on the radio, the Michael Kay show, and says, if we lead our league in home runs, we win our division. And that's great during the regular season, but you can't rely on home run hitting in the postseason to win. But he even says, we win our division, get in the playoffs, and it's a crapshoot. But every year he goes on the radio saying our goal is to win the World Series. He really should say our goal is to win a division and hope we get to the World Series. Because they're not built to play postseason baseball.
No, I mean, I think in the last 10 years they've won 7 or 8 rounds in the playoffs, but then they get to the championship series and they don't score runs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the postseason, you got to be able to manufacture runs. You got to know how to do situational hitting. If you're just relying for guys to get on base and wait for that big 3-run home run, it's not going to happen every game. Not in the biggest games of the season against the best pitching in baseball.
No. So, in a way, Robert, this is good because it's got to change.
Yeah.
And another thing, the fans has got to step up too and just not support. Just don't go to the games.
Yeah. I mean, they thought if they eliminated the shift, hitting would improve. And I was looking at the league leaders in batting average. There's only 4 guys in the National League batting over 300, and I think there's only 5 guys in the American League batting over 300. I mean, back in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, you'd have double-digit guys batting over 300 in the leagues. Now it's down to single digits, low single digits. I mean, and so everyone's using analytics, but the Yankees' approach to it, it's got to change because it's not working.
No, because I remember years ago, I mean, if a guy would hit the average was usually between 250 and 300. Now it's like the low level. Guys are happy to hit 220.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't make for good baseball.
No. And it's great if it's working. We hit home runs, we're winning games. But when you start losing and you're not developing players in the minor leagues, and the minor league players aren't happy with they're not being taught the right way.
Yeah, and I remember when it was it was batting average, on base, and RBIs. Can the guy hit? Can he get on base? Can he drive in runs? Now it's what's his exit velocity on it? How hard is he hitting the ball? What's his launch angle? What's his slugging percentage? I mean, it's like hitting is taking a back seat to who can put the ball over the fence.
And another thing, when you hit homers, it's when you hit them.
Yeah.
If you hit home runs and your team's winning 10-2, that's great. But really, does it help the team?
Yeah. That's like I'm looking at the Yankees on base percentage. Stanton 282, Volpe 291, Bowers 289, LeMahieu 316, Bader 286, Higashiyoshi 267, Cordero 211. Guys just aren't getting on base, and if you're a team that relies on home runs, solo home runs aren't going to help you.
Well, from like when Showalter come in 94, I believe, one of the things he emphasized was taking pitches, working the count, making the pitchers pitch. And when the Yankees had that great run, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's what they did.
Yeah.
They made the pitcher throw pitches.
Yeah.
Work the count, get on base. And when the Yankees have gotten away from that the last few years, this is what you have. You have boring baseball to watch, and if they don't hit homers, they can't score.
That's like a guy like Volpe. You want him to hit home runs, but when you got a guy throwing 95, 96, 97, 98, I mean, you got to be able to jump on a pitch. So you're going to see a young kid strike out a lot and get a lot of outs because he's not looking to walk. He's got to go up there looking to swing. So to me, it's counterproductive asking guys who aren't home run hitters to try to hit them. Instead of just trying to put the ball in play, get on base, and let the big guys in the lineup drive you in.
Well, the thing is, how many times do they get a guy on second, third, bases loaded, no outs, and they don't score?
Yeah. Yeah.
They just don't score any runs.
No.
And when you're being taught in the minor leagues, there's a guy on second, you hit the ball to second base, he goes to third, you get a sac fly. Well, you're not getting rewarded for that.
No. No, they're getting reamed.
Yeah. And another thing that Ben Ruda guy mentioned, they don't teach base running. They don't teach baseball. All they're teaching is you throw as hard as you can, you hit home runs, you'll get to the big leagues and stuff. But everybody can't do that.
No.
Everybody's got a different skill set, and you have to, you have to work on the players, what he does best, how he's going to progress to the big leagues, instead of just having, this is the way we do it, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, and the Yankees heading in today, or like I said, are 8 games behind, I think it was the Blue Jays for the final wild card spot, or it might be Seattle, I forget who, but Seattle's been hot. But I don't see any way the Yankees make up 8 games in this final month of September. I mean, I just think, especially the way the 4/5 of their starting rotation's gone, they're not hitting. It's just not going to happen.
No, at this rate, they'll be lucky to win 8 games for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and as we were talking off air, in that Atlanta series, I think it was the second game, Aaron Judge's first at bat, he got fooled by an off-speed pitch, and when he swung, you could see he was on the tip of his toes on his back foot, and you could tell he tweaked his big toe because he went down to one knee, and he's been kind of limping and favoring that foot ever since. And if he's even slightly injured or uncomfortable, I'd shut him down. I wouldn't let him play the rest of the year. No chance of making. I wouldn't want to see that get any worse. Just shut him down.
No, I'm sure he's not 100% healthy, and the thing is now, I mean, guys lift weights, and and the players nowadays are huge. They're big. Yeah. And when you swing hard, you play hard all the time. When you throw pitches at 100%, maximum and stuff, it takes away a wear and tear on your body, especially when you're big. Yeah. And, years ago, I mean, guys were more flexible. They weren't as big. They had some meat on their bones. But now they're all big and strong, and they go 100% all the time. And you pull muscles. I mean, you can lift, and your joints aren't going to get better. And you fly all around, you slide, you dive. It takes a wear and tear on the body. Yeah. And we were talking off air, more than likely, you'll probably see Aaron Boone get fired and he'll be the sacrificial lamb. And it's kind of unfair to him because he's doing everything the organization asked him and told him to do, and they're just going to replace him probably with someone like him, unless, like we were saying, maybe they try to please the fans and bring in someone like a Don Mattingly. But again, if they don't change their approach, nothing's going to really change. No. And, I mean, Mattingly would make the fans happy. Yeah. But a lot of he was with the Dodgers, and they have analytics too, but they do a better job with it. The Rays do a fantastic job with it. The Dodgers do a great job with it. And, why don't the Yankees hire some of these guys who work for the Rays, who work for the Dodgers? Yeah. You're spending the dollars, bring in some guys who do it the right way. Yeah, because this approach of leading the league in home runs and winning our division, that's great during the regular season, but it hasn't worked. It's not helping them in the postseason, and this year it just hasn't worked at all. Well, you just wonder if, the fans have been talking about, and you mentioned, all the Yankees want to do is put people in the stands and make billions and billions of dollars, appease the stockholders, and, okay, we're happy with that. Yeah. We're not out here to win championships. Yeah. Cause Cashman every year goes on about how the goal is to win the World Series. But he also talks about how if we lead our league in home runs, we win our division. I mean, you should be saying our goal is to win the division and hope to get in the World Series. Because the way they're approaching the game and building their team, it's for the regular season, not the postseason. No, and I always like Cashman as a GM. I think he's done an excellent job. Oh yeah. With the job he's done the last couple of years, and this year, especially, it's been hard. The roster is bad. It's just right now they're just a bad team.
Yeah. And it's like that Double-A player Ruda said, it's like they want the same player at every position, and having the same player, the same kind of player in the lineup back to back. It's not a productive way to win games, or if your goal is to win a championship.
Well, I mean, let's go back when the Yankees had all the great teams in the the late '90s.
Yeah.
Tino, Posada, Bernie, Jeter, and all these. Johnny Damon wasn't with him then, but these guys could all hit.
Yeah,
they would hit. They were situational hitters. They changed their approach when you needed the base hit, when you needed a home run, and they don't do that now.
No, it's like Don Mattingly said. If you just go up there putting the ball in play, hitting the ball hard, home runs will come. And like those Yankee teams, they all were good hitters who could grind out at bats and could hit home runs because they were good hitters. And they would end up leading the league in home runs or the division in home runs because they were good hitters. But, looking for guys to try to hit home runs and not try to be good, it's just counterproductive, I think. Just try to hit the ball hard and keep it in play. The home runs will come.
Yeah. And I mean, some heads has got to roll.
Yeah.
At the big league level and, the minor league level too. And I think a big loss of a couple of years ago, the Yankees had the minor league player development. They had Gary Dembo, who managed Jeter. And he was like, when they got all this talent with Clint Frazier and, Torres coming in, it looks like they were ready to take off. It looks like from 2017 on, they were going to be in the World Series a couple times. Yeah. And he went to Miami, and they brought in like Kevin Reese, and they changed the philosophy, and they've gotten worse.
Yeah, and you look at the Marlins. The Marlins are a team on the upswing.
Yeah. And I mean, Dembo got fired. I think when Jeter left, he left too, because Miami don't want to spend no money. But they made the playoffs in 2020. Everybody made the playoffs in 2000, but they were on the upswing. And I mean, you have to have good people in the minor leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, this Yankee. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next year. I mean, I don't. I mean, there's not much you could really do except for fill in some like the catcher, third base, left field, maybe center if Bader walks. But I mean, for the most part, most of these players are going to be returning. So I wonder what's going to happen in the off season. I mean, they got to do something with this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody out there, or you could trade for somebody. Maybe you could trade Stanton, take much of his contract. The Yankees will pay most of his contract like the Marlins did, and bring in a left fielder or bring in a third baseman. Say you bring Gio back.
Yeah.
You're going to get somebody who's going to play a lot of games, hit 265, hit 270, and just be a good everyday player.
And I still think the Yankees need a left-handed power bat in that lineup. Mm-hmm. I know Cashman doesn't believe home runs, it doesn't matter if you're lefty or righty, but I think at Yankee Stadium, when you got such a short porch in right field, having a lefty bat that can hit some fly balls that way would help too. Yeah,
you got to get some, and you got to get guys who can stay on the field.
Yeah. They're always hurt. Everyone's always hurt. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, you wonder, I'm not blaming the trainers, but they have to be held responsible too. Sometimes you have to have a new philosophy. I mean, and Cashman, when he brought in guys last year, they all get hurt. Monta, Benintendi, Bader. You trade for guys who are injured.
Yeah. Yeah, and Cashman the last, several years, he's content with just running the same team back with little tweaks here and there in the lineup. But they really got to change their approach and try to fix this roster a little bit. Bring in some players that can actually hit and get on base.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel bad for Boone, but they don't make the playoffs, he's getting fired. Cashman's never going to go anywhere.
No, I think he'll get a chance, to rebuild the team. Now, if they have a season next year like they do this year, then, he might be on the block too.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I think he's going to get a chance, to fix things.
The closest they've gotten was Girardi's last season when he had all those young guys up. They were within one game of getting into the World Series, and since then it's been a struggle just to get into the postseason.
Well, you remember, like with Girardi, the analytics department used to give Girardi a hard time, even if they won the game.
Yeah. Yep.
Come in and. He said, well, screw that, and he left. They have to make some big changes.
Yeah. I just saw the Yankees lineup for today. They got Bowers batting cleanup, Kiner Falefa batting fifth, and Bader batting sixth. That's not a good middle of the order if you're the New York Yankees.
Even like for the last few years, you had Donaldson in there, you had Hicks, Madden, middle lineup, and you look at these averages and stuff. Donaldson 6, 7, 8 years ago was a terrific hitter, great player. But you bring him over and you figure, okay, he had 23 homers, 73 RBIs in Minnesota. Even if he can get close to that in the first year with the Yankees, you'd be satisfied.
Yeah.
But, they just don't hit.
No.
And
they're not getting on base. So, it's just no one's getting on base. And if no one's getting on base, then there's no one to drive in.
No. And
yeah,
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking at their schedule. They got Schmidt going today against Boston, and then they got 3 with Washington, and then 3 with Tampa, 4 with Detroit, Houston, Detroit, Milwaukee. Their schedule's not bad, but they got a lot of games with Toronto and 4 more with Boston, but there's just no way. Unless they get extremely hot and teams like Seattle and Toronto go extremely cold, there's no way the Yankees make the postseason. There's just no way.
No. The max I see, if they win 82, 83 games at this point, the streak might probably end this year from, no losing season since 92, but if that's what it takes to shake things up, it's well worth it in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just going to be interesting off season. Like I said earlier, if they don't change their approach, I don't know. Cashman, he always seems to run back the same team every year with minor tweaks. They got to change their approach, or at least just alter it a little bit.
Yeah, like guys like Judge, Stanton, LeMahieu, these were the guys you were counting on.
Yeah.
These were the main guys.
Yeah.
You want them to be productive.
And I'm curious what Torres' future is. Do the Yankees try to keep him, or is next year is going to be his last year in pinstripes?
Well, I mean, if guys have trade value, he's still got some trade value.
Yeah. Because he's not having that bad. He's batting, I think, 265 with like 18 homers, 45 RBIs. So he's having a decent year.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if everybody else was productive like they should be, he'd be a nice piece to have.
Oh, yeah.
Because now is producing, all his shortcomings are like, you know, they take on bigger value because nobody else is doing the job.
Yeah.
You know, it makes it look worse. I mean, I like Torres as a player.
Yeah.
He developed, like they thought, you know, he was one of the top prospects in baseball, was going to be a tremendous player. He's not a great player, but he's a good player.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what he is. And, you know, like getting, you know, Volpe looks like he can develop into being an outstanding player. But when they talk about another Jeter, he's got an uppercut in his swing.
Yeah.
You know, the year hit 315 or something.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like him, he's someone you want on base. I mean, he's a havoc on the base paths. I mean, I'd rather see him trying to hit line drives through the middle. Get him on base. Don't worry about him trying to hit home runs. He's more of a threat when he's on base.
No, he would have been comfortable this year hitting at the bottom of the lineup. Maybe a couple of games to throw him at, you know, one spot.
Yeah.
But that's what you expected. I mean, I think if his average was 30 or 40 points higher, and you know, and maybe if he didn't have as many home runs, he had 10 homers, 50 RBIs, hitting 250, you would have been satisfied.
Oh yeah.
But now he's got the uppercut in the swing. He strikes out a lot, but it doesn't make any difference because everybody else is striking out.
Yeah. And the other thing that's bothered me is the Yankees. They're not televised again today. They weren't televised for 2 games, for Thursday and Friday, and now they're not televised. I don't know what channel they got them on today. I mean, they're not on the MLB network. They're not on their own network. They keep putting them on, you know, Apple and whatever the hell streaming service they got. It's frustrating, you know, for Yankee fans who want to watch them and can't.
Well, you know, that's another thing, Robert. For the old timers, remember how it used to be. It's like the greed in today's game by the owners.
Oh,
it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's like they don't give a shit about the everyday fan.
No.
They don't want people in the games. They make everything too expensive. They make everything too hard. It's like they just, you know, they want all the preppies in there. You know, all the assholes you try to avoid all your life, you know, to go to a game to relax. And this is what you got in your face all the time.
Yeah, I was at the grocery store yesterday, and I bought a little bag of peanuts, and the kid who was at the register was a Yankees fan, and he was like, "Do you know how much these bags cost at Yankee Stadium?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "I have no idea." He's like, $7.50 for a bag of peanuts, a little bag of peanuts at Yankee Stadium, almost $10 for a bag of peanuts.
Well, Robert, I don't want to get started, but I can't. I mean, spring training, a Tuesday night game against Toronto, the 3rd week of spring training. My friend Bob went to the ticket office for shits and giggles. $90 to stand in the outfield.
Jesus Christ. That's just too expensive to go.
Yeah. And then, you know, I don't, you know, I don't care about myself. I mean, I've had a great time and everything. But they, you know, this younger generation, these younger fans, don't know the experience of going to a game. A family can't go to a game anymore because of all the friggin' greed.
That's like back in the 90s, you could go to Yankee Stadium for $10, get a ticket out in the bleachers, and enjoy a baseball game for $10, $12 back in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And we imagine what those cost now.
And, it's just, it's ridiculous. And I mean, when you start with this stuff on the phone as your ticket, I mean, please, this is just, it's nuts.
That's like I said, going forward, it'd be interesting to see if they change their approach, or do they just care about keeping people in the stands? Is the regular season good? Winning in the regular season good enough for them just to keep the money flowing?
Well, I mean, the thing is, on the lower level, you see all the corporates, and there's nobody in the stands. That's who they cater. As long as these people spend, $1,000 for seats and have their food and everything, they'll be content, because the Yankees have so many fans. It's the guys who are sitting up in the upper deck, the guys in the bleachers. They're the ones, that'll say, the hell with this. I'm not even going to watch it anymore. I'm not going anymore. I'm not going to buy the hats. I'm not going to buy the T-shirts. I'm done with it.
Yeah, I mean, the baseball's main audience still is people our age. They're not drawing in more fans. I mean, the game is just, analytics is a way for small market teams to compete, and now every team does it, and it's I think slowly hurting baseball, because it's just not as exciting as it once was. I mean, you used to be able to go to the ballpark and you might see history that day. You might see something that you never saw before. But now, with the way pitchers aren't allowed to go past the fifth inning or over 100 pitches, and how guys are always getting arrested, you don't see things that you would have seen back in the day.
Well, that's the appeal of baseball that the average fan doesn't realize. When you go to the park, you might see something that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Robert, we discussed it before. I think in the next 10 or 15 years, you're going to see very few American players in the big leagues.
Oh, yeah. There are more and more Latin players, Asian. I mean, they're slowly starting to be more and more of them. You can get them younger and keep them longer. Yeah,
and I mean, they'll play in the minor leagues for minimal pay. I mean, are you going to send your son to play in the minor leagues where it's 110 degrees in the summer, when you can go to a local college, a school, play just go to, say, USF over here. You can play in a beautiful facility. You can play 75% of your games in Florida, get a great education, develop as a ball player. Or you're going to go play in the minor leagues and get paid nothing.
Yeah.
And you're not learning how to play. You're learning launch angle and arm angle and stuff.
Exit velocity. I meant to bring this up to you off the air. The Angels drafted this player this past year. I forget his name, but in college, for every time he struck out, he walked 3 times. And so they called him up. He's the fastest player to ever be called up to the major leagues after being drafted. And they basically put him at the top of the lineup in front of Ohtani, because he could walk in college. He was masterful at getting on base via the walk. And in his first game, he actually walked a couple times and I think had a couple of hits. But that's how desperate some teams are to get players who can get on base, because this guy was notorious for walking in college. And it's just that's why the Yankees, you need guys that can get on base via the walk or by base hit. You can't have everyone in the lineup looking to hit a home run over the fence.
Yeah, because if you have all the same kind of players, you wind up with all the same kind of results.
Yeah, and that's what that minor leaguer was saying. It doesn't make sense. It's counterproductive.
No, and we're seeing what happens. And this is like, for the older fans, like 1965 all over again.
Yeah.
when everything just collapsing.
Yeah, that's like, I haven't been watching a lot of the games, but when I do watch them, this team is they're resigned. It's like they have no life in them. They're resigned to their fate. That the season's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to watch.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Robert, you've been following the Giants at all, the football Giants?
Not yet, but I know a lot of the fans have high expectations for them this year. I just don't see it. You know, they had an easy schedule last year. Daniel Jones, they didn't win because of their quarterback. They won with them, and you know, it looks he has I don't know. I just don't see him being an effective quarterback long term. I see the Giants winning maybe 7 games this year. I don't see them getting back to the playoffs. So we'll see. You know, I know a lot of fans think the Giants are going to take this next step, and Daniel Jones is going to have a great year, but he only threw 15 touchdown passes last year. You know, they kept the leash on him. They didn't let him throw it out, you know, air it out. And if they have him airing it out this year, it's not going to be pretty.
No, because I was figuring, you know, maybe if, you know, Ralph lets us, we can do a Giant show in the off season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd love to, you know. You know, and the Jets up here, they got Aaron Rodgers, but I think Aaron Rodgers might be on his last leg. So the Jets fans might be disappointed this year, too, because everyone thinks they're, you know, going to go to the Super Bowl. But Aaron Rodgers didn't look like himself last year at Green Bay, and I don't see him all of a sudden going back to his MVP form at 39 years old. There's only one Tom Brady.
I mean, I'm a Packer fan, and he hasn't been the same for the last couple of years. You know, another thing I want to bring up, Robert, I mean, the Yankees have done it. The Mets have done it. The Jets, the Giants, the hockey, the Rangers, the Knicks. In New York, you have to have star value. And they bring in a lot of these guys who are great players, superstars, and when they get to New York, they're not, you know, they've declined. They're still good, but they're not like they used to be. And New York has a history of doing that. And then they get all disappointed when they're not the same as they were 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's like Brett Favre. I remember the Jets bringing in Brett Favre at the end of his career, and he played 8 games, got hurt, and that was the last they saw of him in a Jet uniform.
Yeah, so that happens quite often. But, you know, hopefully maybe we can do some Giant shows in the off season. I don't know much about the modern players, but I know my share about the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. So, you know, I can throw in a little of my nonsense too. So I think it'll be fun.
And we'll manage the Yankees' decline over the last month, and you know, wrap it up by doing our autopsy report on the season, because I don't think it's going to get any better going forward this year. It'd be a miracle if they make the postseason. It'd be a miracle.
Yeah, I think at this point I'd be just happy if they win 82 games. So.
Yeah, and Seattle, like I said, the Mariners are really hot right now, and that young kid, that 22-year-old Rodriguez, he's had 4 straight 4-hit games, and I think he tied a record from like 1900 with something like 22 hits in the last like six games or 8 games, something like that. He's just been on fire, going like 4 for 4, 4 for 5 for the last like 4 or 5 games. He's tied records that go back to the 1900. You know, he's hit a couple home runs, but for the most part, he's hitting line drive singles, doubles. There's a couple home runs spread in there. I mean, there's something to say about guys that can hit. You know, I'd rather have a whole team of guys who can hit rather than a guys trying to hit home runs.
Well, you know, throughout baseball, that's what has made teams successful. That's what made the Yankees great. You know, they had diverse players with diverse talents, and that's what you don't have now.
No. You know, it's like I'm still shocked by only 4 players in the National League are batting over 300, and only like 5 in the American League. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's just hitting's not. You know, they don't care about hitting nowadays. It's all about your launch angle and your exit velocity. How hard and how far you can hit it.
Well, it's all like about numbers, and it's like people play the game, not numbers.
Yeah. You know, hopefully things change going forward, but it is hard to watch.
Well,
keep on, yeah. hopefully there's.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's some good stuff we could talk about. It's brutal right now.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, and I was actually going to watch the game today, and they're not even televised.
Well, that's another thing, Robert. I mean, with the greed and everything, it's just not right for the fans. And like the younger fans don't know any better, but the older fans know what garbage it is.
Yeah, and it's like they used to, when they went on, yes, they were on Channel 11 or maybe Fox for Game of the Week, but it's not even that anymore. I guess all the games that were supposed to be on Channel 11 are now on streaming services. And as a fan, why would I pay? I'm already paying to get Yes on cable. Well, I'm not going to pay to get it on streaming, too, just to watch a handful of games But that's 2 games a week that they're playing on these streaming services, and it's frustrating. And now this is like the 3rd time this week.
Well, it's all about greed, and when they play their so-called rivals, I mean, the Red Sox are a great rivalry.
Yeah.
They play the games on there to make the fans buy it, but if you're putting a lousy product out there, who's going to want to watch?
Yeah, that's like yesterday. I think the Yankees didn't get a hit until the 6th inning when Judge hit that home run. It could have been the 7th, but I mean, there were to be a no hit through 5-6 innings until Judge hit that home run. And that seems to be the thing. Judge is their only source of offense, and he's playing hobbled.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. We'll try to get one in again next week.
Yep, we'll give it a shot again next week, Robert. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and to the Yankee fans, keep your head up. Bye.
Take care.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.